Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
And hi, you can hear me? I take it. Okay, good. Thanks for joining us. My name's Scott Wilkin. I'm one of the instructors here for the training, and my partner Mary Holmgren is on mute right now, but there she is. She'll be taking you through the first section of the training. Hey, there's me again. My picture on my bio. So before we get into the training, a little bit of background. For those who are not aware, we are with Maricopa Association of Governments. We're the transportation and air quality planning agency for the Phoenix metro area. In order to do that kind of work, we need a lot of data, and our division is regional analytics. We house all kinds of data about employers, employment, commuting, where people live, where they work, socioeconomic details. We have all kinds of stuff. It all feeds into all the models, and we wanted to make it available to whoever needs it. So we created all these online tools and maps, dashboards, stuff like that, to make it available to anybody free of charge, 24 hours a day, whenever you need it. And we realized that not all of it is as intuitive as we had hoped, so we created this training, and we're going to do it in 3 sections. Mary's going to start off by doing some things related to population, demographics, and show you some mapping tools and dashboards. And then after that, we'll move into things more related to employment and the economy. And then we've kind of got a catch-all for the 3rd section, which is all the stuff that we didn't cover in the first 2. I think the chat is in operation. So while we're going through the training, whichever one of us isn't conducting the training at the time, we'll be monitoring the chat, and we'll either try to answer questions there, or we'll break in and interrupt the person talking and try to explain it there. And what else? So please ask questions. If you're not sure about something, if you're confused about something, you're probably not the only one. And we want to make sure everybody understands everything that we have going on. So with that, I am going to let Mary take over, and she's going to conduct the first section of the training.
All right, thank you, Scott. Again, my name is Mary Holmgren, and I work with Scott in the Regional Analytics Division. And today this first hour, we're going to be going over the population and other demographics that we can get from the Census Bureau that we have that we've made data sets and data tools and maps. And so we're going to go over a few of those things today. So I'm going to share my screen, and let me make sure I have the right thing going on here. So all right, so what we're looking at here, you should be seeing the MAG homepage. And so you get here just by the azmag.gov, or and what we wanted to start off with is showing you where you can just find all of our data things that you can explore. And if I go to a new tab, I can just start putting in data.azmag.gov. And this brings you to our maps and data page that has several different types of data tools that you can use for different topics used throughout MAG. We're going to concentrate on these, like I said, the things that have to do with the population and other demographics. So first, we're going to look at community profiles. And to do that, we're just clicking on that. And this draws us over here to our MAG Community Data Explorer. And what this shows us is in this case, it says select the geography. This is Phoenix MSA, which is the Metropolitan Statistical Area. You could actually go to the whole state of Arizona, or you could select a jurisdiction within the region here. And what this is going to show you is what the latest census overview data is for the area that you have selected. And we have the census overview, we have population, talking about the growth that we've had over the past couple decades. We have race and ethnicity. And we'll go on to education and income. And again, I'm just kind of going to show you where these things are and allow you to explore them on your own, on your time. Or just, but if you have any questions, please stop me and let me know. Put it in the chat.
Yeah, I tried to do the chat and it says it's disabled.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Let me just see if I can take care of that really quickly, because I really do want you to chat. I don't know why that would have been disabled. Let's see if oh, here we go. Everyone, sorry about that. I so apologize for that. You should be able to be get in the chat now. Okay, if you have any questions, you're welcome to put them in the chat, and then Scott can either answer those or interrupt, and we'll address those. So this is education and income. And you can see we can also talk about the top occupations and their median earnings. And we have projections. We have those socioeconomic projections. So that's has to do with the population and jobs that are projected from now through the year 2055. And those are MAG projections. And then we have housing. We have a lot of questions going on right now in the news and things about the housing. And then transportation. This is the types of transportation. This is the kinds of questions that were on the census, asking about your vehicles and asking about how you get to work and things like that. And so those are the kinds of things that you can find at a snapshot in a fun little way here through this Community Data Explorer, which is the community profiles. So I'm going to go back here to this data landing page again. And now I'm going to kind of skip on down here to, we had talked about the population and housing. So I'm going to take a look at that. We also put out this municipal population and housing unit estimates. We put that out, is that every year, Scott, or is it every few years for the housing estimates? I think it's every year.
Every year.
Every year. And so you can come here and again, see a quick rundown of the population estimates, or the housing estimates, excuse me. Oh, this is population. Okay. And excuse me. And what you can do is you can click on these. For instance, if I clicked on that, you can see how it sorted that column. And you could sort by either any of these columns. And again, go back to the jurisdiction so that there's that for a quick overview. You can also actually click on this link for our report. And this is, you can download this and have it at your disposal. All right, over here on the right-hand side, we also have our distressed residential property and long-term projections. We'll kind of get into those a little bit later. And also a link to our interactive map viewer. And we're going to look at that more extensively here in a few minutes. I'm going to go back here to our data page. And again, just a quick look at the long range projections. We had shown that to you before in our other Explorer, but here you can actually download the whole report about that if you'd like. And again, if you're also into the how we did it, you know, what the I can't think of the word that I'm looking for, the documentation, okay, of how, thank you, methodology of how we did that. It's all right here in this report. So we have all those available here for you. And again, let's go back. So we've taken a look at, this is, again, we're talking about population and other demographics. So we've done community profiles, we've done the long range projections and the housing. And let's go back up here now to the interactive maps. This is kind of our darling. We have our maps page here. The Regional Analytics Division actually creates the maps that you'll see that RAD MAG puts out. And so we have several that we've done, and this page will actually change, update as we either add or subtract, kind of, we're just keeping things current. And right now, looks like we've got what's about 13 of them right now. Today, we're going to concentrate on the Arizona demographics. And this is kind of our flagship one, as it were. As we open this up, you'll see the state of Arizona, and all those colors represent block groups. So let's just talk a moment about what block groups are. So all of our data for the demographics comes from the U.S. Census Bureau. And the U.S. Census Bureau, when they collect their data from either the decennial census, which we just had in 2020, or through the ACS, the American Community Survey. That's a rolling survey that goes out every year to kind of, it's random, I guess, but it's only a sampling of the population. And through that, the decennial census actually only has like what, 3 or 4 questions. I mean, it's just a really small questionnaire asking about, where you are, what your age is, what your I guess your job is, your occupation, and your ethnicity, kind of thing. So those are the kinds of things that you get from the decennial census, but in the ACS, American Community Survey, you're going to get much more in-depth details in these questions and more. And so we get a better overview of those demographics by using the ACS. Again, though, back to the block groups are the smallest, or actually blocks are the smallest demographic or geography, excuse me, smallest geography in which the Census Bureau publishes or collects their data. I mean, obviously it's individual, but then they have these blocks. But because the blocks are so small, there's privacy issues there, and so they don't actually publish that for the public. And so what the next group of blocks is a cleverly named block group. And so this block group is where we can start looking at the smallest data that is available to us. So you'll see that some of these block groups, a block group, by the way, is anywhere from like 600 to 3,000 people in a block group. So as we look at this map, you'll see that some of these colors, these block groups, are quite large, and that just tells you that they're more sparsely populated. And as we get into the population centers, whoops, like this, like Phoenix, you'll see that they get smaller and smaller and smaller, and it kind of looks like they're almost like, city blocks, but sometimes larger, sometimes smaller, just depending on the density of the population. Let me just go back and mention to you about how I'm zooming in here. I'm zooming in by using my scroll on my scroll wheel on my mouse. So you can do that. There's also several ways that you can navigate around the map. One is, of course, just click and dragging. And the other might be, I like to do I hold down the shift button, and then I draw a box, and I let go, and that zooms me into where I drew that box. And then I can use my scroll wheel to get even more defined and things like that. All of our maps are designed so that you can use them on your mobile devices or your laptops and your tablets and your phones. But of course, the smaller you get, it may not be as easy to, you can use your fingers, obviously, but here on the bottom right-hand side on the computer, we have the plus and minus signs, and that allows you to also zoom in and zoom out. And if you need to, this little house button here, that takes you out to the original extent. So that's, now you see the entire state of Arizona again. Over here on the left-hand side in these panels, we have this top one is the maps panel. That's going to give us our base map. Right now, we're looking at total population. And so over here on the right-hand side where the legend is, you'll see that this says general total population, and then it'll show you the classifications of that data. And as we change, if we click on something else, the map will change, the legend will change. And let me get something more obvious to look at. And Scott, our map, oh, there it is. I was gonna say our map was not changing. It's waking up now. All right, so then here's the poverty status, for instance, that's what I had clicked here. And now our legend also changes to show you those numbers. And here's the source that we have for that. And again, by the way, those American community surveys that I told you about, they happen every year. But the way that we use that data is in a 5-year estimate. So we get 5 of those years, put them all, they put it all together, and the U.S. Census Bureau does that. They have the 5-year estimates. And so the latest 5-year estimate is the 2016 to 2020 5-year estimates. All right, so let's see. So this, you can see here then how we can change the base map, and you have all these are the various topics that were covered in the American Community Survey. Let's see. What we're looking at right now, and this data over here in the legend shows us the entire state of Arizona. If I were to scroll in again, or I like my little shift box thing. So here we are, have a more close up shot of a section of Phoenix. But still my data over here is talking about the entire state. But what if I just wanted to know what's going on right here in front of me? Well, I can come over here to this use dynamic class breaks and click on that. And now the data here has shifted to just include the block groups that are on my screen. Right now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 data classes. There's always going to be this no data down here. So there's 5 data classes, they call them. And so we come over here to this number of data classes, and that's 5, but we can change that. We can change it all the way down to 3 if we just needed kind of high level aggregate information, or we could go all the way down to 9. And now we're dividing it up to more detail. You notice that right now our legend is a monochromatic scale kind of thing, and it goes from a dark for the highest values and a really light for the lowest values. And we can change that. We can come down here to click change color scheme, and we can change the color for one thing. For instance, I'll show you how you'll be able to download these maps, and then you can use them in reports and things, or infographics if you want. And, let's say you have a color scheme going for your infographics, you can kind of match it by changing some of these colors through here. So this is called sequential, where the light color is the low value and the dark color is the highest value. But we can also change that to a diverging, so that now your lowest and your highest values are the dark colors, and they blend in together in the middle where it's where they meet. And so let's just take a look at that really quick. So now you can see, especially if we scroll out here, and you can see how my legend was changing because I still have my dynamic class break going as I scrolled out. You can see how these colors help you to have that contrast. You can see the highs and the lows right next to each other. You can also, by the way, this classification type of this natural breaks, if you think about your data in a histogram, so you've got your peaks and valleys, or your gaps in between these peaks, whatever, and those gaps would be where you would have the breaks. And so that's the natural breaks, but you could control that and make it an equal interval so that now each of here, let me just take this down so we can actually see it a little bit better. It's a little easier to see that 20, 40, 60, 80. You can see that those now are equally divided. And then we have quantile, which is more for your statistical overview of that. And then we have custom, where you can switch these around if you just are looking for a specific area or type of specific values that you're looking for. Then you can do that, confirm there, and now these have changed according to what you set them out to be. And voila. All right, so this is all under the maps panel here on the left-hand side, and I could just click on that again and get rid of that. Now I could actually come over down here to layers. I could add some layers. I could take away some layers. Let's take a look at what some of those layers are. The counties and the streets are defaulted in there, but you can always remove those if you really wanted to. And these are boundaries. Again, places being cities, towns, the census designated places. That gets to be pretty much of a mess though when you put that on there. It's because there's just so many. And I'm not, it's going to take a little while because there's so many. And I'm not seeing it right now, which is kind of unusual. That usually pops right up. Okay. I don't know, Scott, maybe we'll make a note of that, that the places doesn't seem to be working right now. There's also the American Indian areas. I'll tell you what, I'm going to just refresh. Let's just do that because I've been playing around with it a lot. And there is tons and tons of data in here, of course. So I've been playing with it enough that I've, maybe I just needed to give it a rest. And let's come back here to those layers. So we have the counties again. Yeah, here we can take those counties off. We have the places. Still not seeing the places. Okay, so the American in, oh, there's some, like there's one, there's usually over here too. Okay, so Scott, those are not all coming out there the same. Zip codes.
That's weird.
There we go. Yeah, thank you. I do want to make one note about the zip codes. When we think of zip codes, we think of the United States Postal Service, right? I mean, that's who uses the zip codes. But remember that this is all census data, and census data all goes by block groups. And so where the census block group ends and where the US Postal Service zip code ends may or may not jive. And so in this particular instance, we are looking at census zip code boundaries. Okay, they're pretty close. They're pretty close, but just wanted to make that disclaimer there to you in case you said, oh, wait a second, I know that my zip code goes a little bit further or whatever. So you just know that. So this is for your census zip codes data pleasure. I don't know. So then we have our political districts here with the supervisors and the city council members and the legislative and congressional districts that you can see that all throughout the state, for instance. We have census tracts, and that's really important for those who are doing, a lot of grant writers need those census tracts and those census numbers. And once those come up, you can zoom in again and actually see those numbers within those census tracts. So if you're looking for that, they are there. We had a lot of requests for the Phoenix villages. That's not really a census place, but we had a lot of requests for it, and so we were able to do that. We put those Phoenix villages up there. Elementary school districts, secondary and unified school district boundaries. We also have the career and technical education districts. So all of these education districts. Then we have the councils of government and the metropolitan planning organizations. Pull out so you can see those because those are much larger areas. We, MAG, are both a council of government and of governments, excuse me, and a metropolitan planning organization. And you can kind of look over here on these little eyes, these information dots here to get a little more information on that. So these are our sister ones as well, whom we work with as well to get a lot of this data. And if you look into the about section here, you can actually see all of those other MPOs and COGs that that we work with. All right, back to, we already kind of talked about our legend before. You'll maybe notice that as I click on these on the right, on the left-hand side here, that it toggles the legend on and off. And yes, you can move this legend anywhere you want to. So that toggles that on and off. One thing about the legend I haven't mentioned yet is our transparency slider right here. But first, let's go down to the bottom of our screen and to this little diamond looking thing down here where it says satellite, but it's actually aerial imagery. If we click on that, now we can see that aerial imagery below it, except that, well, there's all these colors in the way, right? And again, let's pull down in here and we can kind of see what's going on behind there, but not really well. That's what this transparency slider is all about. And so we pull that to the left, and now we can see more and more of that area. Okay, and if you want, you can pull it back, make it whatever you want to be, and you can even make it so it's opaque. All right. And that is our transparency. Now we're going to go into the reports. Here's the meat of this whole thing. This is where you actually get to see the data behind the pretty picture here. So let's take a look at the reports. We have standard, custom geography, and our advanced selection. In our standard reports, this is what I call our canned reports, because we already know what the geography is going to be. And so it's already done. It's a done deal. So we open up this standard report. We can select the type of report we want, whether we want to look at a specific county or look at a specific city or look at a specific tribal area or a zip code or political district or blah, blah, all the way down here. These are familiar, right? These are in our layers. So we can do all of that. So for instance, if we were to choose a county and we just start typing in Maricopa County here and pull that up and then hit submit. And now we have a map on the right-hand side that highlights the area that we have selected. The default is the total population down here. And over on the left-hand side, we now have this report, as it were. And it says Maricopa County report. That tells us which geography that we've chosen. And we have these two tabs here of ACS 2020 or Census 2020. The ACS would be that 5-year estimates that we mentioned before. And that's the default that we're looking at down here. We have data. So we have the tabular data. And again, this is, remember all this stuff in the maps, all those topics and stuff, that's what they are right here. They're all listed right here, including all the subtopics, whatnot. I'm just going to scroll through that really fast, obviously. Don't try to look at anything too dizzying. All right, so we have all of that data, and we also have it in charts. So now you have it in a visual aspect. And so it's all of that, essentially all that same data that we were just looking at tabularly. Is that a word? And now we're having it in charts. Now we have it visually. All right. And again, this is the ACS data. If we wanted to look at the census data here, we just click on this census button right here. And here it is, race, ethnicity. Oh, that's it. Boom. All right. If we come over here to the data, now we're still in the census 2020. We have the population and the ethnicity and housing. Wondering why that's not in the chart over here. Curious, should be. All right, something else to talk to our data gurus about. So what, this is all fine and what dandy, but it's here on the computer. I need to have it in my hands, right? I need to have it on my computer and so that I can play with it. So here over on the right-hand side is an export to Excel. And if you click on that, then it's going to download onto your computer. And I'm pulling it up here in my trusty Excel. And because I had it on the census tab, that's why it only shows this. So if I were to have clicked on the ACS tab, my report would be much longer. And now you can have this and, you know, play with it because that's what Excel's for. So then you have, that was the census data. And then if I'd done that with the ACS, then you could just download the ACS data. But let's say I want to have it all. I want everything. Okay, sure. Right here, PDF. You click on the PDF. And this is great if you really want to just kind of cut and paste stuff into your report, right? Because now we have the map here of the area we've selected. We have a little snapshot blurb here about it, population and households kind of thing. And as we scroll through the pages, now we're going to see that we have both the tabular and the visual charts. Okay, race and ethnicity, ability to speak English, veteran status, educational attainment, household income, and so on, and so on, and so on. And so there it all is. And then we have our giant legal disclaimer at the end. Okay, so that you can have it all right there. Whoops, I clicked on the wrong thing for that. I'm going back here. There we go. So I think what they've done, our data, we have actually updated these recently. So the PDF is going to, again, just before whichever thing you have, whichever source you have chosen, ACS or the census. All right, so you can choose whichever you would like for that as well. Let's see. All right, so that's our standard reports, and then you get the same type of thing if you are looking at a city or a school district, that kind of thing. The data is going to be for the geography that you have selected from our dropdown. But let's say that that's all fine, Mary, but what if I really would just want to know what's going on in my neighborhood? Okay, custom geography, yay. We have custom geography is where we can actually create our geography. We can draw our geography, our borders that we want. Or in this case, the very first one is a point of interest. And a point of interest is, well, just that, it's a point, it's a dot on the map. So if I click on that, and then I come over here to my map, of course, probably be better if I were to scroll in and know where I'm putting my dot. And let's say I put my dot right there, then I now have a report for that dot. Well, at least that block group that dot is in, because again, remember, block groups, smallest geography that we can do for your data. So this is the block group it landed in, and now all of this data over on the left-hand side is now all about that block group. And it says up here, block group one selected report. And you have the same kind of thing, ACS or census, you have your Excel download here, you have your PDF download here. And again, you have the data in tabular or charts. And now you have a third tab that says block group data. And now you essentially have all of this data now in horizontal form. There it is, horizontal form. You just scroll, and all it is horizontal. And if you were to download this in Excel, you're going to get it all horizontally too, by the way, if you're in this block group data thing. Now, where does that become important that we have that block group data? Well, let's see, let's go back and let's say we come back to our custom geography. And instead of having just a point of interest for just one block group, let's say we have a region of interest, and this little star-shaped kind of blob there, that just tells us that we can draw our own polygon. All right, so we come over here after we've clicked this, we come over to the map and we click and drag. So we click to start it, and I let go, by the way. And then I'm going to say, well, I want to come over to here, and then I'm going to click again, and that makes a line. But then I move my mouse and I click again, and move my mouse and I click again, and I could do this all day long, but I won't. But wherever I end up, I'll double click, and that closes up that polygon. So now, of course, you see that whatever block groups are within the polygon or touching the polygon, intersecting that line, they are all a part of my report now. So now it says block group 16 selected report. So all of this data is for all of these block groups. But what if I wanted to find out individual block group stuff? There we have the block group data. And now we can actually get that data by block group, so broken down by block group. All right. The only thing that we don't have going on again right now, we used to have it where you could click on this and then the block group would highlight over here. That was awesome. But that went away. I'm not sure exactly why, but hopefully you'll maybe know the block group number that you're looking for. I don't know. Good question to ask. That's something that has recently gone away. All right. So that is your custom geography for point of interest and region of interest. Area of interest is kind of similar in the sense, except that now you're just drawing a box. You can draw whatever shape box you want, whatever, and wherever you let go, that's where it's going to be. Those are the block groups that you're going to get the data for. Those highlighted ones there. Same old things going on in here. And this time it looks like we have 22 block groups selected. All right, and finally for custom geography, let me scroll out to a fun place here. Let's go over this way. All right, so for the corridor of interest, corridor, think of a corridor. What is it? Hallway. I don't know. It's a line. So the corridor of interest is a linear geography. So I'm coming down here, Grand Avenue. Let's say I'm going to start here and I'm going to come down here to Bell Road and I'll click again so that I can make my little, what's it called, vertex there. And I'll come over here. You know what? I'm going to come right over here. And I'm going to click again, and then I'm going to come back up, and I'm going to kind of sort of follow along El Mirage up there, and then I'm going to double click. So as you can see, there is, you can kind of see my line there. It kind of, you can sort of see my, from here, there's my line going down and then up, and then I just ended it up right here. And all of this highlighted cyan area are the block groups that touch that line. All right, so we've done the different kinds of geography for a point of interest, a region of interest, area of interest, and this corridor of interest. And I'm looking at this corridor going, yeah, but that only tells me, like, for instance, a lot of times, not always, but a lot of times these block groups stay on one side of the road, right? Well, what happens if you're looking at something and you want to find out what's going on the other side of the road? All right, let's go back. So we come here back over to our custom geography. Well, let's go ahead and choose our corridor of interest. And now we're going to add this buffer selection. And we're going to, well, we don't need to know a mile. That's way too many block groups, I'm thinking, for this area. So let's just change this miles to feet. You can do meters or kilometers if you want, but you know, let's go feet. And 1 foot's not going to get me across the road. So let's say 2,000. That'll get me across the road and a little ways longer, right? So if I do that now and I click my corridor of interest and I come back here and I say, okay, I'm going to come down. Oh, and you can already see those little dots showing you where that buffer zone is. And so in case I needed to adjust where I put in my line. And I think. So I kind of did the same thing, but now I've also have across the street, across Grand Avenue and across Bell, and have a little bit more area that I'm looking for. Now I can get the demographics for what's going on across the street. I know that realtors really love this because they can do a point of interest for a building that they want to buy or sell. And what's going on in like 5 miles around you. If this is going to be a business, they want to know maybe what the demographics are in a 5 mile circumference diameter. And so that you can, find out what your market base is, kind of thing, for that area. So that's really fun. All right, so that's the custom geography. And last of all, we have advanced selection. Now with advanced selection, look, if you see here, we have all of those all of those topics that we had back here in our base maps that we get from our ACS, American Community Survey. And with the addition of area, that way it allows us to focus our attention at a certain area. And this advanced selection allows us to combine our criteria. Because before, all we were able to get was whatever the base map was, and then whatever geography that we chose. Well, now we're able to choose a geography and maybe a multiple criteria for our base map, as it were. All right, so this is how we do it. For instance, if we want to have the area, and let's keep it to, instead of the entire state of Arizona, let's just keep it to Maricopa County. So we choose the county, and I double clicked on that. And when I double clicked on that, it showed up down here in this, we call this our query field. And so it came down here. And so now I can come to this and be disappointed that it doesn't give me a drop down, Scott. So maybe we won't do county.
Yeah, that's a problem.
That's a problem. That's a big problem. All right, so I'm going to trash that. See if we can do something else. Hopefully we can do something else. So we can't do city. Let's do, I don't know. Let's do the state. We'll see. We'll just do the state for now. All right, general. So we're looking at maybe the, instead of the population, what I'm really looking for is I'm going to be looking for household, not household income. Let's look for poverty status. Poverty status, percentage of families below poverty level. Now I could double click on this like I did for the other one, or I could click it and drag it, either way. So now I need to complete this. This says percentage of families below poverty level. And I could do this operation here, betweens, equals, less than or equal to, greater than or equal to, or greater than. And so I'm going to choose greater than or equal to, and I'm going to say 50. And I'm just going to put the 50 in there and then hit return. Or click outside of that. And that puts the percentage sign already in there. And it's going to be 50% because this is a percent that we're looking at here. So what does that mean? I'm going to be looking for block groups in which at least, because it's greater than or equal to, at least half of the families in this block group are below poverty level. Greater than or equal to 50%. And I come down here to the bottom and it says number of selected block groups 109. So I know it's a valid query because it has results, and that there's going to be 109 block groups in the state of Arizona that fulfill this criteria. But that's not where I want to stop. I want to continue, and let's go to age. Let's go to percent under 5. And if I drag that down here, that also comes down here, and I'm going to also make that greater than or equal to, and I'm going to do a value of 10. 10%. Now, in between, once you start adding more criteria or conditions, you're going to get this and or. So the and, of course, is typically if you're looking for block groups that have both of these conditions. Of course, if you change this to, let's just take a look at this. Right now, the number of block groups is 39 that have both of these conditions present in the block group. If I were to change this to or, it jumps up to 805 because now I'm looking for block groups that have either of these conditions. All right, let's go back to and. And so what am I looking for? I'm looking for block groups that have at least half of the families are in poverty, below the poverty level. And also these block groups have a population where at least 10% of the population is under 5. Now, don't get confused that we're not talking about the under 5-year-olds who are in poverty. They may or may not be the same. These are just two conditions that will exist in the same block group. Okay. So we have 39 block groups, and if I hit submit, then my map will zoom back out again so that I can kind of get an idea of where all these block groups are. Okay, they're kind of scattered all over the place, which is again why you would really probably want to do this by county. But here we go. We can scroll in. We can see, of course, that there's many more in the metropolitan area. And we could scroll in to see those more. But we can see that, again, we have block groups 39 selected report. And we have all of those block groups and those individual data for those block groups. And then we have the aggregate data here in this tab. And again, export to Excel, export to PDF, however you would like to have that data. Any questions? Well, this is basically how this map works, and knowing how to navigate through this map and to look at the different reports and the layers and the map layers and things like that. That's good just to have that basics down, because some of our other maps will also have a similar look and feel to them. And so you'll at least be familiar with how to operate that. In the next hour, Scott's going to be showing you how to use the employer map along with the other employer data sets and things that we have along that line, employers and the economy. So stick around for that. That will start at the top of the hour. We'll go ahead and take maybe a 10-minute break. And if you have any questions, though, we'll be here.
Okay, I think we've had a good 10-minute break, and now my clock says 10 o'clock. Let's go ahead and get started with our next module. And we're going to start at data.azmag.gov, which is somewhere on my map, on my screen. There, now you should be seeing the maps and data page. You can get to this real easily by going to data.azmag.gov. For this section of the training, we're going to focus on economy and employment type stuff. We're going to look at the commute and workforce section. We're going to look at the employment section, and then we're going to briefly look at imports and exports. So we'll start up here, commute and workforce. And the first thing I'm going to show you is our commute shed reports. So this is a data set that came out of the fact that when our member agencies have an employer lead that they're trying to land, that employer often wants to know all kinds of information about the area around where they're looking to go. And often they say they want to know everything there is to know about the area within a 30-minute drive of their location. And we're always happy to give them that information. The problem we have is that it can take our transportation modelers a week or two to create that 30-minute drive time boundary. So what we did is we asked our member agencies, what are the most frequently asked about intersections across the region? And we had transportation modeling create 30-minute boundaries for all of those. And then we have a set of reports that we update anytime the data is updated. And now if the city or town does have an employer lead, they can give one of these reports to the potential employer and give them all kinds of information. And so we're going to start, we'll look at the Avondale reports. There are on this page, there are a couple of different ways to get to these. On this page, this links all of them together for each city. Other places that I'll show you later, you can get individual 2-page reports, but this one has all of them. But the reports themselves are 2 pages. So this first one we're looking at is in Avondale, the 99th Avenue in McDowell. This star shows you where that intersection is, and this orange line is where you can get to 99th and McDowell in 30 minutes or less in normal morning driving conditions. So inside this 30-minute boundary, there are almost 26,000 employers, 838,000 total jobs. Here's a list of the top 10 private employers within that 30-minute area. The dots on the map represent employer locations, and the different sizes of the dots represent the number of employees at each one. Then we have what the industry clusters of the employers in that 30-minute area are. Then we've got some worker commute flows. There are 431,000 people who live outside of this area and work inside it. 322,000 people who live inside and work outside of the 30-minute area. And then there's 260,000 people who live and work all in this 30-minute area every day. Second page shows the major occupations of the people who live in that 30-minute area. So it doesn't matter where they work. This is the job that they do for their employer. So if somebody is looking for specific types of occupations, then they can look here and see how many there are within a 30-minute drive of their location. We have our long-range projections of population, jobs. We have the median home sales price in that area, highest level of education, median age of residents, median household income, and then some contact information for the jurisdiction. So if I scroll back up for a sec, you can notice that this is a pretty big area. And so the nice thing about this system is that even though we only have about 100 intersections mapped and created the reports for, these are really big areas. So even if the employer you're talking to isn't looking exactly at that location, you can give them a report for 2, 3, 4, 5 miles away, and the data doesn't change significantly. So it still gives them a pretty good idea of what the demographics, the employment situation, and all the information about the area that they're looking at is. The next one I'm going to show you is our live work patterns maps. This is a data set that we largely have just from Maricopa County. This is data that comes from the Maricopa County Travel Reduction Program Survey, or TRP survey. This is a survey that every employer with 50 or more employees at a location is required to conduct every year. MAG funds the survey, and the county administers it. And so since we fund it, we have access to the data. The goal of the TRP survey is to find ways to reduce single occupancy vehicle trips. But there's a lot of great information in the survey itself, and so we're able to do some cool things with it. By the way, if you work for a place that has at least 50 employees, you might remember filling out a pink sheet of paper a few years ago. That was the old version of the TRP survey. The new version is online. I think most people are doing it there now. So what we have is, so we did it at West Valley for the first one. Let's look at Chandler for this example. This first map is where people living in Chandler go to work. The highest concentration is this reddish area here and here, followed by the salmon, then the yellow, then the gray, then the white. And so you can see where Chandler residents go to work, typically are in and around Chandler, around Tempe, downtown Phoenix, a little bit up in North Scottsdale and East Mesa, and that's about it. Going back to the list, we can see the reverse. Where do Chandler workers live? And the darkest blue here is the highest concentration, followed by this lighter blue, then the greenish blue, then the green. And this purple line represents 80% of the city's workforce. So most people who work in Chandler live somewhere around in Chandler, Gilbert area, maybe Mesa, up into Tempe, and then Scottsdale, Phoenix a little bit, but not very much beyond that. Some in Litchfield Park, some in North Scottsdale, but mostly in the Southeast Valley. So we have these pairs of maps for every city and town in Maricopa County. And then for our friends in Pinal County, we have them for where their residents work in Maricopa County. Since we don't have information from Pinal County employers, we can't do where their workers live, so we can only do the one direction for those places. We have similar maps for job centers. So this is a geography that we work with our member agencies to create. These are places that you tend to see more employment than residential. So places like downtowns, hospital campuses, mall areas, big shopping centers, stuff like that. And so these, we only have where the workers live, but let's look at El Mirage's Grand Avenue. Zoom in so you can see a little bit better. This pinkish line is the boundary of the job center that we worked with the city to create. And the people who work in that job center tend to live kind of near the job center or in the Northwest Valley somewhere. 80% of them live within this purple line. Let's see some smattering down here in Buckeye, but most of them live pretty close to the job center itself. And the next thing I want to show you is the Regional Workforce Commute Explorer. This is another way to look at the TRP data. This is a dashboard that we recently created. And so you can choose from a few different geographies. The default is looking at all of Maricopa County. If you're only looking at west, or if you're only interested in west of I-17, then you can divide the data there. Or sometimes we do east, west, central, with central being Phoenix, west being everything west of Phoenix, east being everything east of Phoenix. And you can see that stuff there. Let's keep it at Maricopa County for now. And then you can see where the people who filled out the survey, 37% of them live west of I-17, 63% of them live east of I-17, 26% work west of I-17, and the other 74% east of I-17. We've got mode of transportation. Driving alone is by far the most common survey response, but it's only 66% right now. Used to be close to 80, 90%. And the big change in the last few years, as you can guess, is that telecommuting has jumped from about 5 or 6, 7% up to almost 26%. And then the people who do commute, the longest they drive is 32 miles in a van pool. and that is also the longest time it takes, 42 minutes. People who ride the bus ride at an average of 40 minutes, but the bus is only average of 13 miles distance from their home. And then on the left, we have the percentage of respondents by industry cluster. So this is a chart showing what the primary activity the employer engages in, regardless of what the employer does. But over here on the right, it shows you what their occupations are, regardless of what the employer does. You know, everybody's got IT, everybody's got HR, stuff like that. So this is a chart showing by occupation. And you can sort it various ways. You can sort alphabetically if you want to look at it that way, sort by totals that way, and see the same data represented a couple different ways. Now, this is looking at all industry clusters. If you're only interested in, say, employers that do finance, insurance, and real estate, then you can change it to that, and you can see the pie charts have changed. You can see way more people in those industries telecommute than in the general. And then you can see the occupations, which no surprise, 45% of the finance, insurance, and real estate people work in business, finance, insurance. So you can play around with that and get some idea of the data in the TRP survey that way. Going back to the main maps and data page, I'll quickly show you the imports and exports. We've got a couple of reports here. Arizona and the Phoenix area do a lot of business with people around the world, companies around the world. And so we've got this map showing what our primary countries that we export to are. Mexico is by far the biggest one, $2.1 billion in 2020, followed by Canada, then China, UK, and the Netherlands. Then we've got this graph showing Phoenix MSA's total export every year back to 2010. Then we've got this cool little truck graphic that shows you the types of things that the Phoenix metro area, Phoenix MSA, is exporting every year.
Hey, Scott, we have a question concerning the live work maps, I think. Jessica asked, does this capture people living in Maricopa County who telecommute for out-of-state companies? Or is it just telecommuting for companies in Maricopa County? I guess that was your last slide where you showed the telecommute thing.
Right, that's a great question. The surveys only go to employers in Maricopa County. So if you live in Maricopa County and you work for a company in New York, the company in New York's not going to get the survey, so you're not going to be counted. It's only for Maricopa County employers with 50 or more employees at a location. There are other sources. The Census Bureau has some surveys that would capture that because that's nationwide, but for the TRP survey, it's only for Maricopa County employers. Good question. So I showed you our cool truck. We've also got this PDF showing you this first page is for Arizona's export economy. So this shows you our national rank going back to 2010, what countries companies in Arizona exported to last year, and then all kinds of information about Arizona's export economy. There's our truck friend again, this one for the whole state. And then the last couple of pages are for the Phoenix metro area itself, a lot of the same stuff we looked at on the dashboard. So get rid of that. And go back to employment. This is the last, there's a lot of stuff here. I'm gonna skip over the employer map viewer for now. I'm gonna come back to that. That's going to take us the longest, but I'm going to start with business jobs and industry explorer. So the big thing to understand about some of this data that we're going to talk about for the next 30-45 minutes is the source. So we looked at the TRP data. All that data is specifically from the Travel Reduction Program survey. The commute shed reports are from a number of different data sources. When we talk about employer data, That's largely coming from the MAG employer database. Every year, our division creates an employer database with every employer in the region, in the MAG region, with at least 5 employees. So if you've got fewer than 5 employees, you're not going to be counted in here. 5 and up is kind of where our cutoff is. We start with a data set from a company called Dun & Bradstreet. We do a lot of cleanup to it internally. The whole staff looks at their neighborhood, the cities they know, make sure that they don't see anything funky there. We send out the draft reports for each city to the cities themselves, and they have staff, planning staff, economic development staff, whoever, look at it to see if there's anything that we're missing, anything that's wrong, anything we don't know. And then once we get that all finished, once a year, we publish the database, again, with every employer in the region with 5 or more employees. And then a few years ago, we started working with our sister COGs and MPOs around the state to create a statewide database as well. That one gets updated every couple of years. And again, it's for employees with 5 or more, employers with 5 or more employees. And we do have statewide data for that. For this first dashboard, we're going to look at just the Phoenix MSA. So this is just Maricopa County and Pinal County. And within those 2 counties, we've got almost 65,000 business locations, 43,000 employers total, and almost 1.8 million jobs at those locations. Anytime you see this little icon with the X, that means you can export the data in Excel and download it. This chart shows you the top 10 employers by number of jobs. So there's state of Arizona just edging out by 90 employees, Banner Health. 14% of the Phoenix MSA's top 20 employers the top 20 employers account for 14% of the jobs in the MSA. And then here are the industry clusters that those employers are classified as their primary industry. This table up here, the green table, includes every employer in the database. And Dun & Bradstreet classifies them by their industry cluster using the North American Industry Classification System, or NAICS code. In contrast to that, we worked with our economic development friends to create something called key industries. These are the employers that they tend to go out and try to recruit. And so this does not include everybody in the database. And an employer could be in one or more key industry, whereas up here with the industry cluster, each employer has one industry cluster and one exclusively, but down here there can be some overlap. So if you're a finance company that also manufactures aerospace stuff, you might be in finance, manufacturing, and aerospace. But this gives economic development staff an idea of what they need to know about the employers they are actively recruiting. All this stuff that we've been looking at is for the Phoenix MSA, but we can look at individual counties, or we can look at the cities or towns in the MAG region. So here is the information for Gilbert. Same stuff, number of locations, number of employers, number of jobs, top 20. Here's the industry cluster graph, and then the key industries. We also have information about foreign-owned employers. So if their parent company is located, has their headquarters in another country, then we consider them foreign-owned. And so we split that off in another tab. And so we're still looking at Gilbert. In Gilbert, there are 74 employers that are owned by foreign parent companies. And they're in 22 different countries. They employ 3,000 people. United Kingdom and Canada are by far the countries with the most subsidiaries in Gilbert, based on the number of jobs. And then you can see the top 10 foreign-owned employers in the town, top 10 parent companies, and then the industry clusters that they're classified as, and then the key industries as well. Going back to the business jobs industry, no, I just showed you that one. Let's not do that one again. That's much fun as it was the first time. The business jobs and industry highlights is a PDF that we created for the counties. Let's pull up Maricopa counties. where a lot of us are. And this gives you some of the same information as on the Explorer, but in a PDF form. So you can hand out as needed. Gives you the top 10 employers, industry clusters. We've got the key industry stuff there, and then the foreign-owned businesses for the region. And then there are the countries of origin and the top 10 jobs at foreign-owned businesses. Circle K and Burger King tend to lead the pack because they've got a lot of locations across the state and across the county. They're owned by Canadian companies, in case you weren't aware. Then we have similar information for the COGs and MPOs around the state. Foreign direct investment is similar to some of the data we looked at on the dashboard. This map shows you the top 10 countries that the internationally owned businesses in Phoenix metro area are located in. So again, Canada leads the pack, followed by United Kingdom. They're sorted by number of jobs. Then you can see the number of companies, number of locations. And then we've got some PDFs for some specific regions. So Asia, Canada, Europe, Israel, Mexico, Pacific Rim, UK. Let's look at Canada because I'm hungry and I like Burger King. So here is the Arizona's connections to Canada with a maple leaf showing that there are almost 7,300 flights between Canada and Arizona a few years ago. These are in process of being updated, by the way. With the number of Canadian-owned businesses, number of jobs, and then here's some information by province, and then key industry information, the key industries right there, and then the air travel connections as well. The socioeconomic projections, I think Mary briefly looked at this with you in the first hour, focusing on population. Every 3 or 4 years, we create long-range projections of population, housing, and employment. And so the reason this is in the employment section is because not only can you look at population projections, but you can look at employment projections as well. So this is site-based jobs. We may have to revise our terminology since there are so many people who work from home these days. But site-based jobs are jobs where you go to a specific location every day. So you go to an office, you go to a hospital, you go to a store, rather than things like landscaping company or construction or traveling nurse or things like that. And so these shapes are traffic analysis zones. The numbers are the number of jobs as of 2018 in each TAZ. And then we can show you 2020, 30, 40, all the way up to 2055. And that is the total number of jobs. And we can show you per square mile where the density of jobs is projected to be. And you can you can create your own reports, kind of like in the demographic viewer down here using the same tools there. This data set was created was approved in June of 2018. We're gearing up for our next set of projections, which will be adopted June of 23. Unemployment claims is something that we started tracking at the beginning of the pandemic when there are a lot of people out of work. And I think we have, we've stopped tracking this, but if you want to see some older data, we've got some maps showing by zip code across the state, across the region. And then we do some of these by percent of civilian labor force by zip code. So it looks like we stopped doing this back in March. So about 2 years worth of data here, a little over 2 years. So if you're interested in that, those are available still for now. And then this last one is weekly pattern visits. This is another one that we stopped doing a long time ago. We're not even gonna look at it. It's way out of date. So going back up to the top, Arizona Employer Map Viewer. You're going to notice that this looks very similar to the demographic viewer. As it's loading, I will tell you that almost all of this data is based on the MAG Employer database, the database that I mentioned that has information about employer locations with 5 or more employees. And because we work with the sister COGS and MPOs across the state to create statewide database, we have data for the entire state. The blue dots that you can see that are slowly loading on the map represent employer locations, and then the bigger the dot, the more the employer or more employees at that location. There are a lot of them, why it's taking so long to load. And you can turn those off by clicking on layers and then toggling that off. I'm gonna turn them off for now just so I can kind of navigate the map, zoom into where we want to be without it taking forever to load. Let's look right here, right in the middle of the region. Turn the employers back on. And then you can click on an employer and get the basic information about them. So their name, the number of jobs, what city they're in, and what cluster they're in. This one happens to have 4 total kind of stacked up on each other nearby. So that's probably the biggest one. There's also RTM Coffee Company with 8 employees. Phoenix Prep Academy has 5. And then child care centers with 11 jobs. And they're classified as being in finance, surprising. You can get information about the employers that way. You can filter specific employers if you want, if you're only interested in education locations. Then we can turn that on. And then in the future, they will show on the map. I have a hard time believing there are no education employers in Central Phoenix, so I think there may be an error with the map. Sometimes things break, as you saw earlier. Consumer services, no, nothing. Maybe they're just working slow. There. Okay, business services, so you can see just business services popping up. And clicking on that, there's Banner Health. They do healthcare, but they're also class in the business services cluster. If you're interested in foreign-owned employers, you can click on parent country, and then in a minute, just foreign-owned locations should pop up. Should.
I'm wondering if you need to just refresh the entire map.
Sure. So let's go back to the filter and just show foreign-owned locations. There, looks like enough. So if you ever run into something weird, it's just not working right, you have low system resources maybe, and try refreshing the map. That often clears out some of those things. So these are the foreign-owned business locations. And then if you're interested just in those 6 key industries that we looked at, you can toggle that on as well, and we'll show you those 6, and you can turn those on and off as needed. We also have some other layers you can turn on, like city place boundaries, the commute shed intersections will bring up little purple diamonds that you can click on to get to those commute shed reports. The first thing I showed you, the 30-minute drive time reports. In theory, it'll pop up. There we go. So if you click on that one right there, that's for Central and Camelback. Gives you the number of employers, number of jobs, but you can click on the report. And then here is the boundary, Central and Camelback, 30-minute boundary. Is all the data in various tables, which you can export in Excel, the charts of all that data, and then you can see the report right there, and then just click on this arrow here, the pop out, and it'll open up just this single report in a new tab. And then if that's the only one you're interested in, then you've got just that one instead of all of them in one big PDF. So this is also not working very quickly. There we go. There's a report just for Camelback and Central. It's a 2-page report. Go back to my layers, turn that off. You can put on zip code boundaries. You can turn on the job centers, which we mentioned earlier, opportunity zones. We're working on updating the legislative and congressional districts, census tract boundaries if you need those. And if you are a big fan of councils of government or metropolitan planning organizations, you can turn on those boundaries as well. If you don't know what Arizona looks like, you can turn on and off the statewide boundary. The big thing you can do here is reports, just like the demographic viewer. Standard reports allows you to look at the state as a whole, or counties, places. You can look at the commute shed intersections if you want. Let's pick some places. Let's see, I did East Valley last time. We'll pick, say, Litchfield Park. So there's the border of Litchfield Park, and then they have 127 employers, 2,420 jobs. 5 of their employers are owned by foreign-based companies, and then those 5 companies employ 60 people. And their largest industry cluster is hospitality, tourism, and recreation. And then we've got the clusters that they're in, and you can sort those by alphabetical or by number of employers, number of employees. Here are the key industries. You can sort those as well. Employers by size. And then you can look at the international summary of 4 Canadian companies, 1 French company. And then here are the list of employers. And then the same list, but only for internationally owned employers. Internationally owned business locations, you could say. And all of this is exportable in Excel just by clicking on that button there. In the charts, you can export the charts in PDF, or you can just view them here. Here are the clusters, key industries, employers by size, international summary. So we've got in the standard reports that type of report for the state, for every county, for every city or town across the region. And then again, for zip codes, commute shed intersections, job centers, opportunity zones, etc. Do a custom geography similar to the demographic viewer. You can click on a point. You can do an area of interest. Let's just kind of draw a box here, and this will pull up all of the employers in this box that I drew. And so it looks real similar to the place report. It's that same type of information, just for the specific area that I drew. You can also do region of interest, corridor of interest, buffer selection, everything that the demographic viewer can do with that, you can do there. Advanced selection is a little bit different. You can search by employer name. So if you're interested in Amazon locations, then you can, there are 29 across the state. You can just put in Amazon and see where those are. There they are. In Tucson, a bunch in the Phoenix metro area. Or you can just get rid of that. If you want to limit it to number of employees, limit it to a certain county or a certain city or town or native nation or zip code or census tract. If you're interested in specific industry clusters, you can limit it there. Or some of those clusters have subclusters. You can get more specific there. If you really want to get specific and you know your NAICS codes, you can search in here. We have up to 6-digit NAICS. You can put in your number, or you can put in manufacturing, and here are all the things related to manufacturing that you can search for. You want to limit it to a certain country of origin, or just one of these 6 key industries, or 2 of the key industries. You can do that there. And it'll give you the same type of stuff that we looked at before for your specific search. We've got more information about some contact information for the program manager responsible for the employer database. some contact information for councils of government and MPOs around the state. If you're ever trying to figure something out, we've got help right there. And share the information down there using one of these formats. And I think I've about covered everything. Oh, we've also got, you can also print a map if you're interested in that. And turn on aerial imagery. If you found a location that you're interested in, you want to see what it looks like from above, from an airplane. I can't remember if Mary mentioned this before, but all of our viewers, all our dashboards are mobile friendly. All you need is a browser for any of this stuff. Let's turn that off. It's affecting my resources. And so we've also got the Find My Location button down there. So if you're using a phone, something with GPS, then it can zoom into where you are if you're looking at that. And then if you ever get somewhere and you want to just go back to start, you can click on the home and go right there. Do we have more questions that are in the chat or anything else anybody wants to ask about any of this?
And I'm not seeing anything new. Welcome, Cindy. Is LinkedIn included on the share?
Yep, right there.
It is.
Looks like LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and email. I think that covers everything in employment that I wanted to go over. We're a little ahead of schedule. If there are no more questions right now, what if we took maybe a 5-minute break, and then we'll go into the rest of the things, the rest, as I like to call it, and we can finish a little early today. So about 10:41, we will look to start up again.
All right, thank you. I'll start up the PowerPoint again. It'll say we're starting at the top of the hour. That's the default on there, but as Scott said, we'll go ahead and start in about 5 minutes.
Okay, I think had a few minutes to prepare for our next and final section. Covered demographics, we covered employment. Now we're going to cover the rest. So we're going to start again looking at the maps and data page, data.azmag.gov. We're going to go down to land use and real estate. The first thing we have is the new housing and data explorer. We've been tracking a lot of information about housing for a while, and so we put some of it on our website. Sales price is one of the big things. So by default, we're looking at Maricopa County. And then this graph divides things into single family, condo, and townhouse. And then the blue line is the overall sales price. And as you can see, it's gone up, up, up. And then down below that, we've got the number of transactions by month going back to the beginning of 2015. We've got this stacked bar chart showing price trends in Maricopa County for the past 11 years. As you can see on there, homes under $200,000 have all but vanished, and we got some big gains in the 500,000 plus range. Then we have median home sales price comparison. This is as of end of last year comparing to end of 2020. We got more recent data than that, and we're going to put that on here pretty soon. But right now we're showing end of last year, and as you can see a lot of upward arrows as the prices changed quite a bit in that year. And that's data for Maricopa County, and then you can choose an individual city or town in the MAG region. Apartment rent, it's similar treatment. The number of units in Maricopa County as of the end of last year with the overall rent, and then we divide it into studio, 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 3 bedroom, and then apartment rent trends going back to the end of 2010, back when there were almost no apartments that cost more than $2,000 per month, and now there are no apartments that cost under $500 a month, and so that gives you an idea of how rents have changed. And then similarly to the sales, we've got the median rent comparison year over year by city. Evictions is something we've been tracking for a while. And you can see kind of before the pandemic here in the gray lines, kind of a normal number of evictions each month. And then they drop with the eviction moratorium. And they've been steadily rising, and we've got data on here through January this year, and we're going to update that in the near future as well, because those are rising too. And then the monthly eviction comparison for 2021, we got each month by jurisdiction. Cost burdened households. This is something we've calculated with houses, households that are paying more than 30% of their income on housing expenses. So in Maricopa County, 31% of households are paying more than 30% of their income on housing expenses. And if you're paying more than 50% of your income on housing expenses, you're considered severely cost burdened. And we've got 14% of households in the county in that situation. And then something we've been tracking for a long time, back to the recession in 2008, distressed properties. This is either houses that are homes that are either in foreclosure, have been foreclosed on, or pending foreclosure. Distressed properties adds these two together. Pretty high in the early part of the teens, and has gone back down to what we hope is the new normal level, and we don't see that rising again, but we're going to keep watching it. So we just looked at the Data Explorer. Distressed residential property is the same thing we just looked at like a minute ago. And then we've got the Land Use Explorer. This is a map viewer that's about to get a massive update, so it'll look a lot more like the demographic and employment viewers This one shows by default existing land use, what's happening on the properties today. And I can't see it because my Zoom thing is in the way, but each of these colors is representing a different type of existing land use. And you can click on the color and it'll tell you what it is and what municipal planning area it's in. You also see future land use, which is based on city and town general plans and county comprehensive plans. And so you can see how the land is planned to change from existing to future. If you want to get a closer look at that, you can enable layer swipe. Click on that checkbox there, click and hold this black box right in the middle, and then move it back and forth, and you can see existing land use, future land use, existing, future. We have development projects in this data set as well. And so the black areas are places where it's either fully developed, like finished construction, or not developed, not under construction, or proposed for construction. The different colors represent either something that hasn't been submitted yet, but has at least started the process with the local jurisdiction. The purples are things that have been approved for their zoning or their site plan or their design. And if something's going to be platted, it's in orange, or something has been platted or the site plan approved, it's going to be in orange. And then anything actively under construction is in red. And you can click on these colors again and see what the development is. And if you want to know development by land use, we've got that as well. So this is a data center in Goodyear, and it's non-residential industrial, and the land use is warehouse. We've also got county summaries. So you can see from Maricopa County, the pie chart showing existing land use, future land use, and then you can also see by square footage, acreage, I guess I should say, and then the development summary of the different types of or statuses of development. And you can see the same thing for member agencies. So let's look at this one. So there's a development summary, list of developments, land use, pie chart. That's weird. That I've never seen. Mary, can you make a note of that? I guess this will be replaced in the future, but yeah, that's not how that should look. And that's also not how that should look. But we were told just late yesterday that this map viewer is about to be replaced with the new version. So that'll get fixed. The one thing I should caution you on when you're looking at the land use data is don't rely on this very much for future agricultural land. It's helpful to see where there's existing ag. The problem is general plans and comprehensive plans typically don't have agricultural land as a land use category, because the property owner is generally allowed under law to sell it to a developer, stop farming it and get it developed. And the general plan would restrict that, would make it more difficult. And so the cities tend to not do that unless it's a place that is planned to be agricultural, or is there's some kind of long-term deed restriction restricting it to just agricultural. Custom summary allows you to do custom summaries like on some of the other viewers. And the data query allows you to do searches for existing land use or future land use, minimum acreage size in the various land use sectors, or by name, development status, and you can limit it to specific municipal planning areas if you are interested in that. And our housing estimates, I think you may have seen this earlier with Mary. Again, this is a data set that we create every year, gets adopted by MAG Regional Council in December, and it shows the estimated population for each MAG member agency as of July 1 of that year. And you can see the table here, and you can click on this for a PDF that has even more detail and the methodology. So that is all for the data page. We're going to go to maps.azmag.gov. You've seen the demographic viewer, you've seen the employer viewer. Let's look at a couple related to schools. This first one is, or these two are projects that we've been doing in conjunction with Read On Arizona. First one we call MapLit. Read On was interested in school performance, childhood literacy, childhood poverty, health. And so this has information about schools, but it also has a lot of information from the ACS. So there's some overlap between this and the demographic viewer. So some stuff that you saw in the demographic viewer, but some stuff that's unique to this. I'm going to zoom in here. All these different colored dots on the screen are elementary schools. This viewer for now only has data on elementary schools if they have kindergarten, first grade, second grade, or third grade. If they don't have any of those grades, then they're not included in this. We are working with Read On to expand this to all grades, but right now it's K through 3. You can click on a school and get some basic information about it. This one is Sage Academy. The school grade is B. I think the ALA and math score is that's probably not right. What shows what district it's in, what type it's in, what type of school it is, what grade levels it has, what county it's in. And then we can click on there on school to get even more information. So there's student enrollment. You can do those 4 grades that I talked about. Student demographics. And then the AZ merit breakdown, passing for English and math. Some schools have chronic absence rate, and we can look at that for several years. Read On is also working with First Things First Arizona to show some of their survey results. And then past week, how many days did you or your family members read stories to your children? This is not just specifically for the school, this is for the survey area that First Things First conducts a survey in. We've got some of their questions there. We have some health data. So this is not just for the school, but for the primary care area that the school is located in, as designated by the state health department. And then for the block group, the census block group that the school is located in, you get some demographic information there. All the schools have these badges up top telling you what the letter grade is, the Title I school, what the percent free and reduced lunch was, third grade reading proficiency, chronic absence rate. And then I should go back to the census data. This is all stuff that you can map on the map, and I'll show you that over here too. I mentioned the overlap between the demographic viewer and MapLit. Both maps show total population, but this one shows population under 18, male under 18, minority, female under 18. You can map a median age, but you can also map population under 5, so percent by block group, percent of block group, or 5 to 17, population by race and ethnicity. But then we also have population under 5 by race and ethnicity. Some households and family information, so total households, percent owner occupied, and then families with children under 6. And we've got median household income, family income, educational attainment, foreign born, so under 6 with native born parents, foreign born parents, or one of each, grandparent, caregiver, linguistic isolation, so linguistically isolated. The percent or the number, this one is the number of linguistically isolated households by block group. Families in poverty, population by poverty status, under 6 in poverty by race and ethnicity. And then family employment and household assistance. And then age 16 and over employment. So percent of the block group. So I showed you, you can get to school information by clicking on the dot. You can also click on elementary school here in the reports and just select one. And it'll zoom to that. And it'll show you, I picked a school in Yuma, it looks like, and this is Alice Byrne Elementary School. And it has all the same data. Oh, it's the exact same pop-up that we looked at earlier. You can look at school district information. And it'll show you some data for the district. This district apparently has one school in it. Other districts will have all of the schools listed. Then we've got, some of these are too small of sample size, but you can see same information there for the district. Information by county, by first things first summary area, primary care area, zip code. And then we've got some preschool information, limited, but this is mainly some of we have enrollment, if they're quality first preschool, address, city, and then the first things first survey results, the health data, and the ACS information for the area around that preschool. So that is Maplet. If I go back to the mapping page, the next one over here is Read On Arizona School Data Information Center. Again, this is in conjunction with Read On Arizona, so it's housed on our server, but the link is on their website. This is not so much a map viewer as kind of an interactive dashboard showing information about every school, every charter school or public school across the state, regardless of their grade levels. There we go. So you can see a list here of schools there on the left. And then there's a drop down, or you can start typing in school there or search for it there. And once we choose one, it'll show you the badges there. You can hover over them to get more information. There's a kind of a generalized map of where it is. You can zoom out if you're not exactly sure, because I'm not exactly sure where Ash Creek Elementary is. Still not sure. Where is this? Oh, down by Sierra Vista. And then you can see the ADE school report card. And again, some schools are small enough that they don't have the information for test scores or some of this stuff. But we do have some limited information for schools. Yeah, I picked a really small one, it looks like. Don't have very much here. This information, the newest we have on here right now is 2019. You can click on 18, 17, 16, or 15. And then when you're done looking at that school, you click on new search and it'll take you back to the main thing, main page. You can click on, you can get information by district or by city or by zip code. So I clicked on Casa Grande and it's got the two schools there. So we've got a lot of great schools information, and we've got a couple of people on staff who are working with Read On and Department of Education all the time. Like I never see them because we're always meeting with them. And so we're looking to upgrade these and get more information as we, in the near future, as we keep meeting with them and getting more stuff. The next one is our recreation viewer. This one was kind of created because one of our GIS analysts realized that every city and town has information about their own parks on their website, but there's no one place where you can get information about all the parks. So this is just for the MAG region, which is Maricopa County, and then kind of like northwest Pinal County. These cactus icons represent a park. And as you zoom in, you see even more start to pop up. And if you click on one, tap on one on your phone, you're going to see the name of it and then a list of all the amenities and then the address and then the Parks Department phone number. And then you can click on the website there for some of these too. The different colors represent different types of parks, so municipal parks or preserves, county parks, open space, other open space. You can get all kinds of great information about parks there. We also have state-owned stuff, federally owned parks and open space, if you're looking for that. And then if you wanted to look for specific amenities, if you really want to go somewhere to play pickleball, because who doesn't want to go play pickleball these days? You can click on that and get 47 locations across the region. A lot of parks have pickleball. But that's not your only interest. You also love non-motorized boating. So click on both of those, and you, my friend, need to go to Encanto Park. Right here in Central Phoenix, not too far from where I'm sitting at the moment. And in addition to pickleball and non-motorized boating, they also have lighted basketball, softball, multi-use field, sand volleyball, and concrete volleyball, tennis, handball, racquetball, pickleball, pool, lagoon, non-motorized boating, fishing, license required. There's an amusement park there, all kinds of stuff at Encanto. It's a wonderful, wonderful place. This one, oh my gosh, I've never noticed this one even has a map. Or it doesn't. Okay, that's something to note, Mary, that our link to the Encanto Park map is dead. Long live the map to Encanto Park. In addition to parks, we have other attractions. You want to look for where all the libraries are? Click there. You want to find botanic gardens? We've got 5. Amusement parks, golf courses, resorts, visitor centers, museums, performing arts venues, movie theaters, bowling alleys, spring training facilities, racetracks, all kinds of stuff that you might want to do around town. It's especially great for people who are visiting, or when you've got people in town who don't know the area. You can point them to this, and it'll give them some ideas, stuff to do. We also have, by default, we show you the state-owned parks and open space, federally owned parks and open space, national monuments and wilderness areas. And also turn on hiking trails. So if you're looking at going hiking, you can get some basic information about the hiking trails. This one is in the Phoenix Mountain Preserves. I guess I didn't quite get the trail itself. Oh, maybe they turned that off, but you can get to a detailed map there, and you can find out about the trails. Bikeways is another thing you can see. Whoa. So here are the bikeways. And if you're going to go out biking, you can see where bike lanes, bike routes, paved shoulders, that kind of stuff are. And then if you need to locate where you are, then you can do a search by city, by zip code, distance from, and then we've got a lot of locations that you can choose from as well. That's more if you're out with your phone or something like that. I mentioned bikeways, and now we're going to go to, I think it's still our most popular viewer. This is the electronic digital version of the paper bikeways map that MAG has produced for a long time. One of our GIS engineers realized that it's great that we produce this paper map every year, but what if we produced this one as well, and we can keep it more updated and add even more features? So the legend is off by default, but you can turn it on. It's off by default so it doesn't crowd your phone, because we assume you are probably using your phone on this one. This should be popping up to tell you what the different colors represent, but it's not. It's weird. Mary, can you write that one down too, please?
Answering a question. I'm sorry, what was that?
The legend on the bikeways is not turning on.
Oh, okay.
But you can click on these, and it'll tell you a little bit about that bikeway or bike route or whatever it is. So that's multi-use path along Grand Canal, etc. There's also some other layers you can turn on. But by default, we've got the light rail. You can also turn on bus stops. And if you zoom in enough, the bus stops will pop up. There they are in blue. And if you click on one or tap on one, it'll tell you the upcoming arrival times, the upcoming scheduled arrival times, I should say. That's pulling directly from Valley Metro with their service. You can also look at the major bike routes, the Phoenix Sonoran Bikeway and US Bike Route 90. These are different crossings. We have some bikeway pictures if you're not sure if you're where you think you are. And then we got bike shops. If you're out and you suddenly get a blowout or your handlebars break or something, you can go to the nearest bike shop and get that fixed. We also have some information about bike safety and more information about the Bikeways viewer itself. And again, they help in the share as well. We looked at the Land Use Explorer. We looked at projections a few times. Luke Air Force Base Mission Critical. This was something that we did with a contract from Department of Defense. They wanted to create some resources for incoming families who are locating to the base, give them some ideas about schools near the base, housing options, and recreational activities, restaurants, shopping activities, stuff like that. So let's start exploring. So here is the map of the West Valley primarily. This is Luke, if you're not familiar with that, Luke Air Force Base. And then you can turn on different educational locations, you can turn on different transportation. And then we've got some different things for Luke itself. The noise contours, the purple line is 20-minute travel time to the base. Bike trails, cultural and entertainment. I thought this was a cool one. The different cultural amenities, outdoor activities, unique food and beverage, specialty groceries, sports, religious locations. And then if you're moving here, you probably need housing, and so it gives you some idea of housing prices. This is median prices for last year. And then we've got these panoramic views, which are kind of neat. Click on one of these green circles. And it takes a moment to load. But it's different than your typical aerial photo, which kind of looks down. This one gives you the ability to kind of pan around and look all the way around the one that you chose. So there's the runway, there's Luke itself. A lot of farms to the west, some mountains. You can got a number of those around the base and around the region. Active transportation plan used to be called the bike ped plan or bicycle pedestrian plan. This allows you to request an active transportation improvement somewhere. All the different icons are from existing comments that have been processed. The dots haven't been processed yet. If you want to provide a comment, you select the type, put in some detailed comments, the jurisdiction, rough location, your name and email address, and you go and just drop a pin where you want it to go, and it'll be looked at by staff and considered by the Active Transportation Committee. And then the last, I'll show you the Transportation Improvement Program. This is kind of the transportation planning is the bread and butter of MAG. This is the biggest thing that we do, and we've got this massive transportation improvement program. It's a book that's several inches thick. This map viewer kind of gives you an easier way to access that data. As you zoom into an area, you will see that the menu down here at the bottom should be updating with just projects that are on the screen right now. And so if you want to get information, you can click on one of the projects or the MAG ID, and it will tell you all kinds of information about that project. Funding type, length, what type of facility it is, all kinds of stuff like that. Urban areas is not something anybody cares about. And then the last one is the Heat Relief Network. This is one that we create for our Human Services Department every year, showing places, it's hot outside, showing places where you can get relief from the heat. So cooling centers, hydration stations, and places where you can donate water. And then this shows all of them across the region. Just want to see the ones that are open now and turn that on as well. And then click or tap on the location and get more information about it, their hours, most importantly. And then you can click on that to get a Google Map view as well, and you can get that from where you are. So we create this late in the spring, and then it comes down probably in September or October usually, I think. But it's pretty useful while it's up and while it's hot. And that's all I got for you. I think we're gonna end earlier than planned, but are there any questions in the chat, or anybody have any questions that you want to ask now?
Okay, Grace, I just put that really quick in there for you, so I didn't mean to be kind of abrupt. But so we had the question of asking if there were some certain things that could be done, and I was explaining to Grace that there were some overlapping that isn't going to happen if you have it one thing in one map and another map, and we don't have that. But would encourage you that if you do have specific questions or requests, you can contact us, and I'm going to put the email address in the chat. It's maps@azmag.gov. And that's where you can contact us if you have specific requests for data and things that you're not finding on our maps or in our data tools. And if we can help you, we will, and free of charge, but we'll let you know whether it's something we can or can't do. And that's it.
And Mary mentioned the survey. If there are things that you'd like to see in dashboards you'd like to see, or something added to any of these maps, please feel free to comment on that in the survey. We've added things directly from a lot of people asking for them in these surveys, and it really helps to know what people need so that we can make sure that they're useful for everybody,
Right.
or anybody.
Yeah, yeah. And that, again, that's another reasons why sometimes our maps will change on our maps landing page, maps@azmag.gov, because we find out what's the most popular in a sense, or what is most relevant for the time being, and we will rotate those maps.
Okay. Well, if there are no questions, appreciate all the thanks.
Welcome.
Mary
Thanks
and I
for coming.
We'll be on until everybody else is off. So if you have questions, you can talk to us. But otherwise, hope everybody has a great day. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry about that. I forgot to put my camera back on at the time.
Yeah.
The last bit. Thanks, everybody.
You can probably stop recording.
I'll leave it.